the grim autumn of 1940, Warsaw was a city suffocating under Nazi occupation. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat, every street corner a potential point of no return. Yet, in secret cellars and quiet apartments, a clandestine resistance was taking root, a network of ordinary people committed to extraordinary defiance against an overwhelming evil. Among them was Witoldpilecki, a decorated cavalry officer and veteran of the Polish-Soviet War. A farmer and a father to 2 young children, he could have sought safety in obscurity. Instead, he co-founded the secret Polish Army, an underground organization dedicated to fighting the invaders, his quiet demeanor masking a will of iron. Disturbing rumors began to trickle into the underground's leadership. Whispers of a new, heavily guarded camp near the town of Auschwitz, a place the Germans called Auschwitz. No one knew its true purpose, only that those sent there seemed to vanish. The resistance desperately needed intelligence, but the camp was a black hole. The leaders debated the unthinkable, sending an agent inside. It was a suicide mission, a one-way ticket to a place from which no information had ever returned. Who could possibly undertake such a task? How could someone not only survive but also organize and report from within the belly of the beast? Then, a calm voice cut through the tension. It was Witoldpilecki. He looked at his stunned commanders and laid out his plan to intentionally walk into a Gestapo street roundup, get arrested under a false name, and be sent to the camp. The mission had its volunteer. On September 19, 1940, under the alias Tomasz Serafiński, Pilecki allowed himself to be caught during a Warsaw street roundup. Packed into a crowded truck with hundreds of other civilians, he was no longer a cavalry officer or a father. He was just another condemned man, heading towards an unknown fate, his real mission locked behind his eyes. The arrival was a descent into hell. The infamous Arbeit macht frei gate loomed over them. Guards with snarling dogs screamed orders, their clubs falling indiscriminately. Prisoners were stripped, shaved, and tattooed. Pilecki became inmate number 4859, his identity, like his humanity, systematically erased by the brutal camp machinery. He endured the starvation, the backbreaking labor, and the constant casual violence. He witnessed summary executions and the cruelty of the capos. Every day was a battle for survival, a tightrope walk over an abyss of despair. But unlike the others, he had a purpose beyond just seeing the next sunrise. He had to observe, to document, to resist. Slowly, carefully, Pilecki began his true work. He formed an underground network, the Związek Organizacji Wojskowych, or ZW. He started with small cells of trusted men, sharing scraps of stolen food, passing secret messages, and whispering words of hope in the darkest of places. His organization was built on the quiet bonds of absolute trust. The ZW grew into a sophisticated intelligence-gathering operation. Members were strategically placed in different work details, in the kitchens, the infirmary, even the Sonderkommando that worked in the crematoria. They meticulously counted transports, identified SS personnel, and documented the methods of execution, piecing together the true, horrifying nature of the camp. By October 1940, just weeks after his arrival, Pilecki smuggled out his first report. It was carried by a released prisoner, a fragile message to a world that knew nothing. More reports followed, detailing the escalating atrocities. He wrote of the starvation, the medical experiments, and the first uses of a new killing method. Then in 1942, everything changed. Pilecki witnessed the first mass gassings using Zyklon B. He saw the shift from a brutal concentration camp to an industrial-scale factory of death. This was the moment of horrifying revelation. His mission was no longer just to report. He now had to prepare his secret army for an uprising. The ZW's operations became more audacious. Using parts stolen from the camp workshops, Pilecki's men constructed a secret radio transmitter. Huddled in a dark attic, they broadcasted information about the camp directly to the Polish Home Army, a lifeline of truth from the heart of the Reich's genocidal machine, each transmission a dance with death. Pilecki's reports, now being received by the Allies in London, were filled with desperate pleas. He begged them to act, to bomb the gas chambers and railway lines, or to airdrop weapons for a mass prisoner revolt he was ready to lead. But his pleas were met with inaction. The reports were deemed too fantastic to be credible, or the mission too risky. Meanwhile, inside Auschwitz, the Gestapo was closing in. They knew there was a leak, a highly organized network. Members of the ZW were being captured and tortured, and Pilecki knew his time was running out. After nearly 3 years inside, Pilecki concluded his mission was complete, and he could do no more from within. The only option left was escape to deliver his final report in person. He and 2 comrades got themselves assigned to a night shift at a camp bakery, located just outside the main electrified fence, their only chance at freedom. On the night of April 26, 1943, they made their move. Using a duplicate key they had made, they unlocked the bakery door, overpowered the guard, cut the alarm and telephone wires, and sprinted into the darkness. Gunshots erupted behind them as they ran for their lives, a desperate, breathless flight towards a freedom they hadn't known for 947 days. After weeks on the run, Pilecki finally reconnected with the Polish Home Army. He presented his comprehensive account, Witold's Report, the first and most detailed eyewitness testimony of the Holocaust. He passionately argued for an armed assault on the camp to liberate the remaining prisoners, but the Home Army Command deemed it militarily impossible. The war ended, but for Poland, another occupation began. The Soviet Union installed a communist puppet regime which ruthlessly hunted down former members of the Polish resistance as threats to their power. Ever the patriot, Pilecki refused to flee. He remained in the underground, now gathering intelligence on Soviet atrocities against his people. In 1947, he was captured by the communist secret police. After a year of brutal torture that he himself described as worse than his time in Auschwitz, he was put on a sham trial and sentenced to death. A man who had volunteered for hell to save his country was executed by that same country's new masters, his story buried for nearly half a century.